My name's Annie Robinson. My studio is located in Town Site on Maple Ave. I like studio tours because it's just more authentic than a gallery space. Galleries are beautiful and clean, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate that, but it's not real life. I have 2 kids, and I don't know, that really informs my practice. So it's fun to have people in our home, which my studio is in my home, also interacting with kids in a kid-friendly space, and then see the behind the scenes. It's just a more authentic look at my art practice. I've been an artist all my life, really, I think. But I was a writer first. I always loved poetry growing up. But I wasn't really encouraged as a visual artist until university and started painting in my early 20s. Well, I studied art. I did take art classes and a bunch of art history actually in preparation to study art therapy, which I am studying now to become an art therapist. I became a full-time artist after I became a mother a few years ago, just after mat leave, decided not to go back to work and took that plunge into being a full-time artist. I call myself a painter. Maybe some people consider me a textile artist. I use a lot of natural dyeing in my work. Tried and true as a painter. That's how I represent and how I view things. So specializing in painting and also making my own art supplies using foraged and found and natural materials. I make my own paint and inks. All the paint that I'm using, all the dyes that I'm using are made by me. I'm inspired by the land, my body's relationship to the land, just material, natural material, artifacts that I find on the seashore, anything that I kind of come across. I love the discovery of that and then pulling that as a color inspiration or a actual color source into my paint. I'm inspired by women, the role of women in society, the history of women's work. Working in textile, I think it's impossible to ignore that. Just inspired by color, generally. Pretty obsessed with color. I do a lot of immersion dyeing, and then I also do a lot of pour painting and working with ink on paper. Usually working with ink on paper is mostly studies for the larger paintings on canvas, although some of those pieces find their way into shows just because they turn out to be really lovely. A lot of times I will take canvas out onto a landscape and pour paint that I've made over top of the canvas. So the thought behind this is to sort of collaborate with the land, both through the color source with making my own paint or at least using a natural material, sometimes not so natural, pieces of copper or rusty metal. So then I'm pouring the paint over top of the canvas and the paint's sort of taking the shape of the land or the topography of the land. And again, the collaboration with land is in there. In terms of pouring paint, I always say that it feels more like giving birth than being in control, which is a preference for me. The way my pieces have been coming together lately is in patchwork. So for example, this piece behind me, I originally poured these paintings. This is a piece of the same painting as this originally. And then I deconstructed it and brought it back together with naturally dyed fabrics. Like this is dyed with marigold, and this is dyed with pomegranate rind, and this is indigo. So yeah, I've been bringing together natural dyeing and painting, handmade paints, foraged color in that way through deconstructing and then patchwork painting. So that's sort of how I'm wrapping it all together right now. This ink is made from copper pipe that I found in the tide zone. And basically, I can show this little bouquet here. This is some copper ink that's in process right now. This is copper wire that's just being oxidized by vinegar and salt. I'm gonna show how that sort of plays on paper. I call these backyard paintings because I've just been working in the backyard since I had a baby. And this is just a different take on some of the pour paintings, similar to some of the tidal pours. This pink color is made from a cochineal bug, which is a little beetle, a desert beetle. This yellow is made from marigold. This turquoise is the copper color. And then the circle is made by placing a rusty bolt on top of the marigold, and it reacts with the marigold. It's the iron in it, sort of what a natural dyer would say saddens the color and turns it into a dark green. Here's my favorite big table where pieces come together. So for example, this piece I lay lots of different pieces of composition out and then sort of play with how to bring it all together, whether it's a painting from the poured paint or just blocks of color from naturally dyed fabric or rust dyed fabric, whatever it is that I've been working with. That's where it all comes together. My website's annierobinson.art, like www.annierobinson.art. And then I'm also pretty active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Annie on the Water.